delighted to say, still joining me for the whole show, is Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor. Morning.
Morning.
We were doing a bit Mumsnet in the last hour. We were a little bit Mumsnetty, like, you know, parenting today. But I think there are very few stories that don't, in this country, come back to issues of parenting. I really do. The joblessness issue is a massive concern. You've got a teenager, I've got a teenager. They're looking at very different paths in life. Yeah. But they've got a work ethic. They understand you have to get up and pay for stuff, and you have to do, you know, you do your weekend jobs and all of that. I think we've got millions of parents who don't. You call your daughter princess. You're buying your kid the latest trainers because they want them, and you're not understanding the value of money, the value of work. I consider it a duty. I think it's I've said this many times. You know, I was raised in a left-wing family. You know, I mean, not like Marxist, but like a Labour voting family. You know, but I think it should be across the board in every political field and in every class. Everything. You have a duty to work. If you are able-bodied and able-minded, if you're not completely and utterly mentally disabled, or you're not physically disabled in a way you really cannot work, you have a duty to contribute once you're an adult, and you need to be prepared for that. And it's the job of parents to do that. And we need to contribute so we can pay for the stuff that we need for our country, and to pay for the people who can't work, or people while they can't work, or in their old age. And I just think it's utterly a source of shame. I think it's immoral if you can work not to work. I really do, and I think we need to bring back a bit of shame. I think we need to bring back the notion of duty. I think we need to bring back the notion of being a good parent and frankly a lazy bad parent. If your kid doesn't have a work ethic, that's down to you. End of, and we need to take you to task for it. Where are you on this?
Yeah, I mean, I am of a very similar mindset, and I think you need to bring your children up to learn about responsibility. You're responsible for bringing your plates down to the kitchen, for putting it in the dishwasher, for picking up your dirty clothes and putting them in the laundry basket.
A lot of kids are not.
No, they're not. And
then the mums, it's always the mums, they'll go, I can't believe I've got a 26-year-old who doesn't know how to work the washing machine.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Well, whose fault is that? Why are you still doing your 26-year-old's washing?
Mind you, I do have a husband that doesn't know how to use the washing machine. He has a post-it note now on the inside of the cupboard door so that he can learn to use it. I mean, but that's not my fault.
I was once asked, to be fair, let's not bad, but I was once asked, like, can I put this black top in with a white load? There's a clue in the name.
Yeah,
there's a clue in the name.
It's the obvious stuff, isn't it? But what are we doing to our kids that we think that they should all go off to university? No, they shouldn't. Yep. I was watching the Tony Blair documentary last night.
Fascinating watch, I have to say.
Absolutely fascinating. But that was, of course, the architect of everybody must go to university. No, they shouldn't. Why not introduce, as you say, duty service, bring back cadets, bring back some kind of outdoor pursuit, because a load of them are now sitting indoors not doing anything at all.
Oh, and we've got to get them off their phones and off their Game Boys, and absolutely.
So, you know, why don't we look at stuff like that? We need more apprenticeships. We need, my son wants to go and do a degree apprenticeship, because as he turned around to me, he said, I don't want to go to university because I'm going to rack up a whole load of debt, and I also don't want you to have to pay for it. Which I was quite shocked about, really. Yeah, that's the
fair
thing. Play to him. He's learned.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts. So, you know, do get in touch 0344 499 1000. And I wonder again how much of this is like, you know, we discussed with James Ball from the New World earlier. You know, this thing on the left, they're all a bit surprised that what the businesses said was going to happen has happened, which is if you put up the minimum wage to over a 10 an hour, you even it out between 18 and 21-year-olds, and they're going to make it at everybody. People are not going to employ young people who are inexperienced, and they're not going to employ that extra person, because these people, they've never run a business. There's zero experience of running a business on the front bench. Now, I've not run a business, but I ask people, business people, whether people, I know people who run multi-million-pound businesses, I know people who run really small businesses, 2 or 3 man, or 10 man, or 100. Okay, look, so talk me through, what is it you do? The cost of recruiting somebody now, the cost of, you know, hiring them, the extra desk, the extra space in the workplace, you know, this all, kick them out with a phone and a computer and a chair. I mean, no, literally, you know, basic stuff. And the cost of national insurance for the employer, and all the other costs, and the extra sort of, you know, admin you have to do, the accountancy. There are huge extra costs, and a lot of these people, they are simply not worth that to the business. They will not bring that added value to the profit line, so they're not worth employing. Now, in the public sector, well, you just get a bigger budget, because the taxpayer will pay for it. They have no concept at all of, if you pay people more, you have to bring in more. They literally don't understand that concept. Whereas, in fact, in private companies, you have to bring in more before you can pay those people.
Yeah, exactly. But this is what the Labour government doesn't understand business. It doesn't really want to understand it either, because otherwise they would have put much more effort into going into small and medium-sized businesses, especially because they are going to be hit really, really hard.
And they're the backbone of our economy.
Absolute backbone of the economy.
But 80% of people work in the private sector. The vast majority don't work for a well-known international high street name.
No, and you want to go and have a look at the sort of people that employ 2 or 3 individual workers. What about going into trades and learning a little bit about that?
There's such a snort. Isn't that the problem, though? The policy is made by people who all went to university, or wish they had, or what who are just the middle classes like me. It's like, well, of course you should go to university. That's what you do, And their advisors are exactly the same. All the people they talk to, all the people who run the think tanks, exactly the same. And everyone they deal with is like that, and it doesn't occur to they don't know anybody whose kid is training to be a plumber, because they talk a good game on this stuff, but actually they're quite snotty about it, even though of course the plumber is going to be earning about 150 grand a year more than their kid who's doing the media studies or the psychology degree. But there is a real disconnect between our political classes now, which have largely never done a normal job, than there is with
Yeah, they all went to university, and they've all come out. They've either gone into law, or they've gone straight into politics, or they've gone into the charitable sector. So their beliefs are all being mirrored back to them. My son's friends, one of whom is learning to be a plumber. There's one who's learning to be an electrician. My son actually wants to go into work with cars. Supercars normally, but even so, he'll be able to fix mine if it goes wrong.
Very useful.
Those kind of jobs are not going to get taken by AI either. Yeah. You're always going to have to call up somebody when your pipes are bust.
Not a euphemism.
Not a euphemism. But you're also going to have to look at ask somebody to come around if your circuit's bust as well.
Again, not... I don't know why I'm going.
You're bad.
I don't know why I'm going. No, but this is the thing. That said, I was tweeting last night. The algorithm. Everyone's talking about the algorithms and the doom scrolling. I was AI scrolling. It turned out last night, and some extraordinary footage of stuff from earlier this year I think it's last week in Beijing. These incredible dancing robot. Well, have you seen this?
I have.
If you look at my social media feed from last night, absolutely terrifying. I mean, genuinely, people. It's one of the things I think we actually need to talk about more on the show, because this is, which jobs is it going to take? This is going to be a revolution. The people who know about this stuff, this is going to be the same as, I know it's going to be bigger than than phones. It's going to be equivalent to the Industrial Revolution in terms of how our life's going to change, and we're still not quite sure how. But these dancing robots, they showed the difference between 2025. They had the same company's robots. They were just doing a bit of dancing. They're now doing acrobatics, and absolutely petrifying. We're going to have wars fought by AI and robots. The world is going to change beyond recognition, and we are really not prepared for it. And I'm definitely not. I've only just started messing about with pictures on Grok.
Yes, I've just started doing that as well, but I'm not very good at it, so I give it to the small child, and he deals with it.
The small child is 6'2".
Yes, but still my baby. Bless.
Let's talk about also Palestine Action. Just to mention to you at the top of the hour, 6 Palestine Action activists are going to face a retrial on criminal damage charges. This is after that break-in at the UK base of an Israel-based defence firm. It's been announced by the Crown Prosecution Service. Of course, we did have there was a case where some were found guilty of some charges, some were found not guilty, and then there were also cases where the jury simply could not agree, including over allegations involving a police officer, a woman police officer, on the ground arresting somebody, being smashed in the back and actually having her back broken with a sledgehammer. It's caught on video. It's extraordinary footage. Now, obviously, at the time we said there's very likely to be a retrial, and obviously when things are going back to retrial, they are sub judice. We cannot do anything or say anything that would prejudice that case. It's really, really important in any direction. But I think a lot of people will certainly welcome that there is going to be another chance for another jury to have a look at this, given the allegations, given the charges against these Palestine Action activists.
Because of the seriousness of the nature, I think it's right that it goes back to be looked at. This is why we need jury trials, and this is why the argument comes in. You need to have that. You need to have a level of scrutiny. Now, I'm pleased that things are being referred back if the outcome isn't quite what it seems at the first one. I'm trying to be really careful because I don't want to talk about these cases particularly. It doesn't matter what your cause is. If you break the law, you should be dealt with. That's in my view how I look at it.
The question is this retrial looking at whether they did break the law, but it's going to be interesting to see that case, and we'll see what happens, and if another jury comes up comes with a different perspective. Let's also talk about Robert Jenrick, announced as Shadow Chancellor at a press conference in London yesterday by Nigel Farage. Well, he's actually giving his first speech. He's actually the Treasury spokesperson for reform, and he's speaking right now at a press conference saying that they intend to win the next election, and on the polls it looks like they would, or they're going to end up in a patriotic coalition with you guys at the Tories. But in his first major speech, he says reform will defuse the benefits bomb set to bankrupt Britain. They will, now this is an interesting change, they will restore the two-child benefit cap in full. Again, that has been scrapped brought in by the Tories, full support. But by the way, even people on very low incomes, most Labour voters supported having that cap, which basically meant after your first 2 kids, if you're on universal credit, you don't get, and again, people think they're talking about this like extra 20, 23 quid or whatever it is, child benefit that everyone gets. It's not. It's £3,500 extra. It's the child aspect of universal credit that you get for your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th or even 8th kid. And they was capped on the basis that there are loads of people who are paying taxes, going out to work, both parents, 40 hours a week, who can't afford to have a 3rd kid. So why the hell are they paying taxes to afford someone else to be able to do it? I've always thought that was an incredibly moral and good policy. Apparently it didn't have any impact on people having fewer kids. Well, that's up to them. And if they want to live in relative poverty because of that, that's their choice. But it ain't my problem as a taxpayer. Absolutely insanely, the Labour government is bringing that back. The Reform Party had a policy for quite a few months, which I'd taken them to task with, both on air and off air, which they would restore the two-child benefit cap, but it was going to only be for parents who are British nationality, who are both in work. Because actually the vast majority of these people are either not working or one parent is working only part-time, which is why they've got no money and frankly are having a lot of sex unprotected and having more kids. But we also know that the majority, these people claiming this are Bangladeshi and Pakistani, huge numbers of families with those children who were on universal credit. And the idea was that, look, if we're going to give this money, it should be to families who were doing their best to make ends meet. But this was only going to be about 1,300 people.
Yeah, I think Reform got themselves into a bit of a mess with this because first off, they confused the policies. I saw you take one of their MPs to task.
She's admitted to me in private, actually.
She got confused?
She didn't know the policies. Well, don't talk about stuff on air you don't know about.
Well, be prepared if you're going to come on the media and talk about it. I think that they've got themselves in a mess over this, so I'm glad to see that there's a position that is coming. Interesting that it's the introduction of Robert Jenrick that has sort of tightened this up, because it has been all over the place previously. So I'm interested to see what their comprehensive plan for welfare reform is, because we've very little detail.
They're going to set it out in the months ahead. I'm reading it here.
Yeah, you kind of think you need a little bit of detail.
What's the Tory one?
What's the Tory one? Is to cut the benefits bill down.
But again, a lot of people were saying, well, you didn't when you were in office.
Absolutely.
You allowed it to balloon from 2020.
Absolutely.
We weren't in lockdown in 2023.
No, and that's, I think, a failure on the Conservatives' part to not address it quicker.
Couldn't even get civil servants back to work, for God's sake. Couldn't get university lecturers. I mean, again, university lecturers. Okay, we go back to university. Most of them still working from home half the time, if not all of the time. And all of the money the universities get is pretty much from British students, is from student loans. The government could have said, we will not give any student loans for any course whatsoever unless the academics are in-person teaching 80 or 90% of the time. They could have changed. It's this abject lack of will to get anything done by your lot. That's why people are turning to reform.
So let's see what they can lay out, because at the moment we've seen no detail on a lot of it. They give you a lot of very good headlines. They've given a lot of figures for spending which haven't added up, and I think Nigel Farage has turned around and said, I've scrapped all of that because it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what you come up with.
We can't get away with
that
at the next election.
Oh,
absolutely.
And that's what I'm waiting for.
Robert Jenrick, but your numbers didn't add up, Labour's numbers, none of your numbers add up, because you're all lying to us about the cost of the welfare bill and the cost of what we need to spend on defence. I mean, I don't disagree with you. The thing. That's why people are going, I can't be bothered to vote anymore. You're all the same, and that's the thing that really worries me. Robert Jenrick, though, one of the things he's saying is our benefit system is broken. It's an economic and moral disaster. Reform will diffuse the benefits bomb set to bankrupt Britain. The only way you can do that, I mean, I agree with all of that, 100%. And I know you do. I'm pretty sure all of our audience do. The only way you can do that is you're going to have to be absolutely ruthless. Once again, I offer my services to whatever that government is on a non-party political basis. If it's coalition, whatever it is, I will be your czar on that. I'm quite happy. I am very, very, very happy for people to have no money to feed themselves if they don't go out to work, if they're able to work. I am sorry. Because they will work when they're hungry enough. I'm absolutely quite happy to have 18-year-olds in orange jumpsuits cleaning graffiti, being forced to do
Pick up litter.
to get benefits. I'm sorry. We need to go full on, absolutely military on this.
Yeah, we absolutely do. In my village, there was a whole bunch of lamps. You know, the big street lamps.
Yeah.
We don't have many. It's a village, but they've been hit by catapults and ball-bearing guns.
So
and they're all smashed. They're 600 quid a piece.
Ouch.
Which we all have to pay for as residents.
Yeah.
So you just think, right, I want those toads to be rounded up and made to pay in some form, whether that be unpaid work. Let's go and work in the community. Let's go and help out in the school. You know, whatever
I'd just string them up from the lamppost, but I'm old-fashioned.
I didn't know if I could say that or not, because I'd like to do that, but, you know...
I would like to do... I don't do anything illegal. I would like to change the law so that I could do that. But I'm thinking that would focus minds.
Yeah, exactly.
Focus minds. But there we are. I want to hear from you. Tell us, what would your punishment be? 0344 499 Let's also talk about someone who's definitely facing the prospect of punishment, although, of course, has denied all wrongdoing. I need to suggest that. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as was Prince Andrew. We've now got 7 different police forces investigating the Epstein files and the so-called 90 Lolita Express flights to the UK. Again, it's reference to Nabokov novel, but again, I think they kind of it's creepy when they talk about it like this. We're talking about young girls and young women who've been trafficked for abuse, and they're now looking at up to 90 flights into Stansted's private terminal by the jet owned by Jeffrey Epstein. Of these, 15 were after the US financier was jailed in 2008 for soliciting underage sex. Essex police are now examining flight logs and emails. Now, one of the issues we've got is there's actually often very little information. And I've done a few private flights when I was a journalist and I flew with the Prime Minister. And of course, they've got your passport, they're dealing with all of that. But there's been quite a lot of information that's been come out in recent years that actually, these private, airports. What's the word? Airports, and their private sections. It's basically, you're rich. If you've got a private jet, come on through, no questions asked. And sometimes on these logs, they haven't even got someone's name. They've got, you imagine the amount of passenger detail you have to give in. You do one for Ryanair or EasyJet, and you get like one letter wrong, and then you have to pay 50 quid to check. I mean, come on. They're allowed to just put the word female. That's the flight log. I don't bloody well think so. There is clearly something going on. But 7 different forces, I mean, there will be no joined up thinking. I have a funny feeling this is all going to be allowed to disappear into a cloud, because there was so much evidence before and no one investigated. I don't trust that our authorities are not going to try to cover this up.
No, I feel the same way. You've got now a large number of police forces looking into something which there is, as you say, adequate evidence previously. No one did anything about it. What's to say that these people are all going to find in their areas their own little piece of evidence? Are they going to share it? Is it going to make a difference? And what's it going to achieve at the end of the day? Are we now just wasting a lot of police time for no outcome? Because I think, you know, people would like their burglaries and things like that dealt with.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a very, very long time, and I think that's the worry. And again, people are innocent until proven guilty. We must stress that. And we have all, of course, paid 12 million quid to someone we've never ever met to make them go away.
Haven't we just?
I mean, yeah, and we've all done it. Who of us can say we haven't? Linked to that, by the way. Police are arresting 1,000 suspected paedophiles every month on the threat of as the threat of child sex abuse worsens. This is according to the National Crime Agency, the NCA boss. This is Rob Jones. He said online groups had resulted in offenders' behaviour being rationalised as like-minded abusers are brought together by algorithms. This is happening not just on the dark web, this is happening on major social media accounts. And this is the scary thing. And I've interviewed brilliant authors of Joe Bartolt and Rob Jessel, authors of this brilliant book, Pornocracy. And I was sitting reading this book to do a preview, you know, to a blurb for them. And I was sort of had my stomach, you know, churning over at what people are seeing. And what is being normalised, particularly for young men and now young women as well, and how people are getting sort of driven from just, you know, pornography where a man and a woman have sex, or two men or two women have sex, to stuff that frankly is beyond anything we could want to even imagine in our own minds.
And unfortunately, all of that kind of extreme end of viewing is now seen as not a surprise.
Yeah.
I find it really frightening that how much we don't know about the online world. I mean, you and I are pretty good, technology-wise.
Ish. For a middle-aged woman, I'm all right, but yeah.
Absolutely no idea. My son has flicked through his social media account on one platform in particular, and I'm absolutely horrified. And he just looks at me and says, well, I don't follow it, but it
the
just
violence
comes
and
up.
the sex, and it's when the sex and the violence are particularly
when they
combined.
mix.
It is very, very terrifying. What our young people are seeing routinely. Again, it's what's normalised, and that's when they end up normalising again.
And they share it with each other as well.
And then and the normalising of the paedophilia and the violence is just horrific. It really is. Look, your thoughts welcome on every topic we're talking about today. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. We'll get some of your messages as well about joblessness. Lots more top guests coming. This is Talk.